Hello everyone, my name is Sarah. Welcome to my first ever YouTube video. I discovered the YouTube journaling community relatively recently. I think it was at the end of January, and I fell in love with it so much, and I really fell in love with journaling this year, so I wanted to be part of it as well, and especially because I don't have anyone on my day-to-day life that at least that I know loves journals and loves talking about their journals that much. So I thought this mid-year point was ideal to start this YouTube channel, and that I could start with a mid-year journaling ecosystem kind of review, Techo, Kaigi, call it whatever you want. So here I have all the journals that I've either used or I'm planning to use this year. So let's move everything that we don't need to the side, and I'll start from the beginning, from what I was using in January. So for the last few years I've been using one of these Leuchtturm notebooks. I'm sure I'm butchering the name, but you know what I mean. And the way I would use them was, at the beginning I would just have some trackers and things about my goals, and all that kind of stuff. And then the rest of the notebook would really be just random notes. Maybe there would be some a little bit of long form journaling if someday I felt like I needed it, but there wasn't really any structure. It was more like a notebook where I could write whatever that I was interested, but it wasn't pretty journal pages or anything like that. At some point I can do a bit of a flip through through those journals, but honestly, there isn't that much to see. Just a very, very messy notes, basically. But in the past, I've got rid of some journals, and then I've regretted it. So I don't want to get rid of them for now. But yeah, like I was saying, I started the year, as I usually do, with one of these notebooks. It's the softcover one, and this usually lasts me, like I was saying, the whole year. But this year, I really got into journaling a bit more, and kind of long form journaling. So it started maybe just kind of with, a small reflection about my day. Maybe I was using some prompts around what went well, what didn't go so well, that kind of stuff, wins, disappointments, stuff like that. And I slowly got more and more into it. So yeah, basically I quickly realized that this notebook was going to get all filled and that I wasn't going to be able to stay in this notebook for the whole year. Something that I also did in this notebook and I really enjoyed was this, which is I basically give each day a title. So it's kind of an episode title from a TV show or something like that. It doesn't need to be a highlight, it doesn't need to be what happened, just something that makes me think about the day. I got this idea from, I believe it's Eden Faith in YouTube, but I think she mentioned that she had got the idea from someone else on TikTok or something like that. But I thought it was a brilliant idea, and some days it's more just something that happened, but other days it's just something more cryptical, I guess. So for example, I had one that it was the chair attack, and I know what I mean, and I remember why that I put that on that day, and maybe something funny, but it's something for me kind of as an inner joke. And so yeah, like I was saying, I really got into journaling and long form journaling, and I realized I'm gonna need something else. So here we have an entry that says, down the journals rabbit hole, new obsession unlocked. Because I was really watching so many videos by this point, and I was discovering all these brands that I had never heard of, Stalogy and Hobonichi and MD paper and Traveler's Notebook, and all those things that I had never heard of. So of course I obsessed over it. I wrote down all the different options of the notebooks that I could use. I even did, this is a little mock-up of kind of like the Hobonichi Weeks. And I really like the Hobonichi Weeks. I like how like small and like even just the mock of it felt good in my hands. So I was like, you know, like in the back of my head, I was like, this is probably what I'm gonna go through with. So I ordered a Hobonichi Weeks in February, but then even before the Hobonichi Weeks arrived, I already realized that it was like, this is probably not going to be enough space for like long form journaling, because I'm going to fill those back pages very quickly if I'm doing all my journaling in there. So a bit later on, I bought also a Stalogy notebook, and I moved there when I completed this. But before I show you in the Stalogy notebook, I'll show you how I'm using the Hobonichi Weeks, because it was the next edition. So in February, and you can see here, we got a visitor. It's my cat Tony, or my son as I call him. But yeah, basically in February I was using my Leuchtturm notebook still for all my long form journaling, and I got the Hobonichi Weeks, like I said. I wanted this notebook to kind of like track things around my goals, my interests, reminders of like important kind of like tasks or habits for my goals, and also to have a bit of like a review of every day. So this first page, I've just tried different things. It's just chaotic at this point. Next year I would like to use it to, if I go with this notebook, which is quite likely, but to basically like rate my days. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the idea of like my year in pixels, where you basically give each day, you know, assign a color to mark like what mood you had. For me, that's never been that helpful, and I find it more useful to think about like giving a rating to the day. So I kind of have, it was an amazing day, it was a good day, it was an average day, it was could be better day, you know, it's a bit like not great, and then a shit day, like horrible. So yeah, those are kind of like the way that I would like to rate them, and I'm doing that in a different notebook, but I'll show you later on. So in my months, I use them kind of like in the same way that I was using them in the Leuchtturm when I was creating the calendar myself. I just give that title to every day, and on the side I have some. Hello, Tony. Are you going? Bye. And on the side I just have like some habits. I've not been doing very well, like you can see. I've changed that. I've changed how I'm using it for next month, and it's going to be more like a functional journal of like, you know, events, birthdays, meetings, that kind of stuff, things that I need to remember. I'm going to continue doing this, but I'm going to be doing it in a different notebook, which again, I'll show you later on. The way I started to use the weekly section was, I saw that a lot of people were dividing this part in 3 columns, and I liked it, and I thought I want to try that to like do my daily review. So the idea was to have a first column where I put any kind of like highlights, wins, achievements, things like that, things that worked that day, kind of like positives of the day. Then my second column would be for like the struggles of the day, things that didn't go so well, things that like, you know, I wasn't so proud of. And then my third column would be for like kind of realizations, lessons, something I wanted to work on, an idea of how to improve something that didn't go so well, or just kind of like an empty space for anything that I wanted. And then on the other side, on the notes part, on the notes page, I had kind of like a weekly overview and a weekly kind of like review of like, again, just a recap of the week, and my kind of like 3, or doesn't need to be 3, could be less, but like the main things I wanted to do that week. It's not so much things like laundry or anything like that, but more like the things that kind of like matter to me, or that are important for like the things I want to do in my life, basically. It doesn't need to be in important things, by the way. It can just be like, I don't know, do something in the garden or things like that, things that I enjoy, to make sure I make time for those things. So yeah, important, but it doesn't need to be productive, if you get what I mean. And then it kind of like evolves slowly, and the way I use it right at the moment is I don't use the 3 columns anymore, and I still think a bit about like a review of the day, but I'm doing it more as like recap of the day. I just write a few lines. Sometimes I do still think about it as like kind of highs and lows of the day, but not necessarily. It can just be more an impression about like something that happened on the day. Then I still have my kind of like the main things that I want to do that week, and then sometimes I have it divided in this way, as in like highs and lows and kind of like as a list. Other times I still like to do like a little paragraph about the week. It just depends. And then I think you probably can see, but I can zoom you in, because I don't really care about the moon phases. I turn those like icons into like the weather icons, and it's the way I like to track it. I think I came up with it, but maybe I'm wrong. So if you've seen someone else doing it, I've probably copied it from them. I don't want to take credit. And then my notes section, it's kind of like, yeah, like everything that used to be at the beginning of my Leuchtturm. So kind of like my trackers of different things. I can explain a bit more about what they are and all that stuff. It's just, otherwise we're gonna be here forever. I do like a monthly review, some stuff about my goals. I only did this once. It was kind of like the things that I bought that month. You know, being Adri's Locks #1 fan, I even printed it, some screenshots, and I was writing what I loved about it. So that kind of stuff. This is more of like to be honest, I set this up like the last couple of days. There's a website called Rate Your Music, and I'm planning to listen to the top 100 albums in that website and like kind of go through them and listen to all of them and rank them myself. So, you know, just things like that. Notebook thoughts. You know, it can be things that are kind of like lists, but it can be also interest and like that kind of stuff. It's not so much like this is how I was feeling or this is what I was thinking of, that kind of stuff, but it's more like maybe some notes from like you know, a video that I watch, or again like my quarterly and monthly reviews and planning and that kind of stuff. So once I filled this in, I move into my Stalogy notebook. So I finished this notebook at the end of February, and so March it's when I moved into the Stalogy. Okay, so in March I was using my Hobonichi Weeks and my Stalogy. I don't think I've said it, but like the Hobonichi Weeks, I struggled a little bit at the beginning. I think I was just a bit intimidated by it because of watching all the videos of you know, creators with like beautiful pages, but I slowly found my groove with it. And yeah, right now I'm almost 100% certain that like I'll be using it next year. I think I'll just change the mega for the kind of, I don't know, the standard size. I don't know how you call it, but basically I won't be using the mega. I'll be using the other one that has less pages at the end. And then, so the Stalogy, I'm not showing you the pages because basically I ripped them off and they don't live in here anymore, which I'll explain why in a second. But these two notebooks together were working like very well. Like honestly, I think if I hadn't been watching so many YouTube videos and I hadn't been influenced to like try the Hobonichi Cousin and the Hobonichi Original, I could have stayed happily in here for the rest of the year and it would have worked perfectly. So let me show you where my Stalogy pages are living now. This notebook is not going to go to waste. I'm just going to use it for like note taking and things like that. So here's where my Stalogy pages are now. This is just like a little booklet that I created when I realized I wasn't going to be in that notebook for the rest of the year. This was honestly working really well. Like I said, I was just doing some decoration. I started to experiment with a bit of like different kind of like layouts, having 2 columns, things like that. And I was, having lots of fun in this notebook. Would have worked perfectly well for me the rest of the year. But of course, all the Hobonichi videos at the end got to me and I was influenced. And so I started to see all the kind of A6 format videos, and I was like, it looks so cute, and I was like, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna do a kind of a mock-up version of the Hobonichi original and see how I feel about it. So I just ripped some pages, fold them in half, and the idea for this notebook was to have something more kind of like a Joy's journal, I believe is the journal diaries, and Elanim as well, the half a journal like that. So it's kind of joys, comforts, nice memories, anything that kind of brights up my day, basically. And I really, so I did this little mock-up version, like I said. I was having so much fun, and it allowed me to be creative as well. I felt more playful in my journals or something like that. I studied arts in university, but I ended up so burnt out that I've not drawn or painted since I finished my degree, which was many years ago. I work in the arts industry, but I don't have to do that on my I don't have to draw or paint or anything like that. So I don't know. I felt this was in a very no pressure way. I painted with some watercolors or even with some wash and things like that. So I was like, okay, I really love this. I want to try it. And then I also thought, well, if I like this, maybe I can try the Hobonichi Cousin, kind of a mock-up version of the Hobonichi Cousin. So let me just find one of the pages. Yeah, so this one, for example. So I created kind of the layout of the Hobonichi Cousin, and I loved it too. I feel I like my layouts more. I was being more creative with my layouts, things like that. I even tried the weekly view as well to see if it's something I would like or not. I tried it in different ways. I was just making some notes here. Here it was kind of time tracking, so I was kind of writing what I did more or less every few hours or something like that. And yeah, I was having a lot of fun, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to get these notebooks, and I found both secondhand, one on Vinted, one on eBay. So I got a good price, probably. It's not it was super cheap, but it was cheaper than if I had ordered from the Hobonichi website. So that's what I'm gonna be moving in July. But before we go to that, I just wanted to show you because I love this so much, and I was like, well, I got the Avec version, so that wasn't starting until July, and I wanted to continue this little Joy's journal. And because I also wanted to try the TN passport size, I just got a little insert of the TN passport because I hadn't seen this before, and I love it so much. It's so cute in your hands. It's you can hug it. It's ooh, gives me cute aggression. I believe it's Elanim, the one that says that too. But yeah, really like this format. I was also quite intimidated with this notebook at first. It's obviously much cheaper than the Hobonichi, but the paper is so beautiful that I'm oh my god, it needs to be beautiful what it's inside too. And slowly, I got rid of that pressure too, but I had so much fun in here. I can do a proper flip through. My initial plan was to do 2 pages per day because I believe this is 60 pages or something like that. I don't know if it says at the end. No, doesn't say. Anyway, 60 something. So I was like, well, if I use a couple of pages per day, that will be June. I feel doing the 2 pages, it was a lot of pressure, and then I was also trying to make them look nice and all that stuff. So I slowly got rid of that pressure. Something I really loved and that I had to do in this notebook and that I hadn't done before was kind of junk journaling. So just with packaging and from things that I had received, just put it in there, and I had so much fun. So yeah, I can go a bit more through each page one day. I still have some left at the end, and I think the way that I'm going to continue using it is as kind of junk journal, so whenever I get some some order or something, some ephemera that I find, I think I'll just go in here. I don't have that many pages left, and then once that full is full, it's not like I'm going to continue it unless I really miss it. But yeah, so that's the plan for this notebook going forward. So now let's move into what I'm going to be using for the rest of the year, or at least for July. This is everything that I'm going to be using in July. So the weeks, nothing changes there. Love it. We can put it to the side because we already know how I'm using that. Then the Hobonichi original, like I said, this is the Avec version. I just decorated it. It's what I'm calling, like this one, my book of joys, comforts, and sweet memories. So anything that like makes me happy during the day. And the way I'm going to be using it is in these first pages is where I'm doing that kind of like ranking of each day. There are some extra pages of this kind of like year at a glance thing for 2026, which I've not decided how to use them. I might just print some pictures or something. But yeah, we'll see. And the way that I'm going to be using the monthly calendars basically is going to be kind of like an index as well. So I'll just like briefly write what I'm journaling about on the main pages. But it's just going to be, again, things that make me happy in a very like brief, kind of like one short sentence way. And then on the days, I'll just journal about that. So yeah, I need to see how this journal goes for me, to be honest. Some days, having to do it daily has felt a bit like too much. So we'll have to see. Obviously, I don't mind if I have some empty pages, but if I see that it starts to feel like too much, I also see that I could have this on my main journal, and perhaps I don't need a separate book. Like I said, I'm happy to experiment this year, so we'll see how it goes. I can always use it for something else. Worst case scenario, it can just be for notes or whatever. So the Hobonichi Cousin is going to be my long form journal. This is just for like reflections, thoughts, feelings, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be in the kind of year at a glance pages. I'm going to be having at the top, at the end of the month, I'll give kind of like a title for the month, as if it was like the chapter of a book. Then the days will be just for like index, so just very briefly what I talked about. And then I think at the bottom I'm going to do like a brief kind of like monthly recap. I'll have to see how it goes, and it might change, but for now that's what we're going with. 2020, there is also for 2026, I've not decided what to do with this. I like that how a lot of people use it. There is like 4 trackers, but like I said, I prefer my trackers on the Hobonichi Weeks. So I don't know. If there is something specific that I want to track and this can be helpful, I might use it for that. We shall see. For now, they're staying empty. I started to do this a little bit in June, but then because I was still using the weeks for that, I didn't continue. I might backfill this. This is something I don't mind to do. But yeah, so basically it's just going to be what I was using on the weeks. I'm just going to be given each day a title. And then the weekly section, I have different ideas, and this is, I mean, I did like a test, like a mock-up version, like I shown you before. But yeah, this is something that I'm quite new, so like to it, so it's just going to be a bit of like figuring out how I like to use it. I really love how like Micah Oatley, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her surname, but like if you don't know her, follow her Instagram. It's beautiful, everything she does. But yeah, she does these like weekly recaps and kind of like highlights where she ignores the dates and the times, and she just like does like a drawing and a bit of text and pictures and stuff. So I really want to try that. The other thing that I like is what I did with kind of like big letters, like what I've been doing during the day. I've also thought about using it kind of like with some brief prompts, so kind of like wins and achievements and stuff like that of the day. But I don't know. It's just something that I need to see if it works for me or not, to be honest. And then this is yeah, just I started to do a bit of journaling today already. I've not finished the page yet, but I'll do it probably in the evening. And it's just a little bit about the day and like the thoughts that I was having about like notebooks and journaling, of course. And I just wanted to like, kind of start it today. So I just started by saying, "Hello, cousin." My mom was a bit nervous and like that kind of thing. And at the end, just have a pen test there, and here the 100 I have decided to use it for like topics and prompts to write about. I think it can be nice. So if someday maybe I want to write but I don't have anything specific about the day that I want to write about, maybe I can just come back here and see like, okay, what topics had I collected that I want to write about. So that's how I'm gonna be using the Hobonichi Cousin. And last thing I want to experiment with, it's this Traveler's Company insert. It's the lightweight one, and I want to use it for kind of my most private thoughts and feelings, kind of my darkest thoughts and feelings, if you will. It's kind of where I want to come when I'm in some sort of like emotional distress about something that has happened or something from the past. And yeah, it's just, in the past, I've journaled all those things together. So basically, one notebook for everything. It's worked well. I don't mind. My camera was having a moment and didn't want to focus. Something that I noticed is that when I was in this notebook, I journaled about some things that were quite upsetting. And then just flipping through those pages, it would make me think about those things again, which I didn't need to. I maybe wasn't even thinking about them before I flipped through the page. So it's really not something that I want. So I thought maybe having it in a separate space could work for me. I know some people just when they are journaling about some negative feeling, they just like to do it in a piece of paper, then just get rid of the piece of paper or something. I think I would like to keep them. Maybe I just don't like to. I don't want to flip through them every time I journal. But we'll have to see. Like if it doesn't work, I'm happy to go back to have it all in one place. But like I said, this year it's for experimenting. I don't know how many notebooks I've shown you, so I think we have accepted that at this point. I just wanted to finish with a couple of thoughts. The first kind of like insight from everything that I've tried so far this year is my absolute love for the Hobonichi Weeks. I've said it already, but this notebook is probably going to come with me in the future. I love it, and it's something that like if I don't feel like journaling too much, I still enjoy my time in here. The second thing is that like I need some sort of a space where I can do long form journaling when I feel like it. Now, that might mean that a dated notebook is not the best option for me because I don't journal daily, but I really love the layout of the Hobonichi, so I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to focus on like really enjoying what I have, and I'll come back and see how it goes, and if it doesn't work well, we can always change things around. How are things going for you? Are you experimenting with lots of different things this year like me, or have you been using the same notebooks from the beginning of the year? I'd be very curious to know. Thank you so much if you've watched the whole thing. My next video is going to be something that I've already recorded. I just need to do the intro, which is me decorating this, so you can journal along. I'll probably have some music or something with it. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, and see you soon. Bye!